The ancient Taoist alchemists, as it was as it still is with the Tibetan medicine or Ayurvedic medicine, based on alchemy, and that alchemy in each of the persuasions of the alchemists is based on three principles. The alchemists knew that to ensure the possibility of the success of their quest for immortality, making the elixir of immortality, there had to be three things present at any stage of their preparations. And that was physical preparation. They had to fast, they had to purify themselves in one way or another. It had to be the right season. The winds had to be blowing in the right direction. There had to be certain elements in the air, like humidity and so forth, like with dough. And also, the stars had to be in certain locations, so it had to be astronomical too. But there is another overriding principle that all the alchemists knew was required to ensure success of any stage of their experimentation. So I wonder, when we look at the questions that have been asked for some while, whether we can have a gleaning of what this is. There are several stories. The first story is about an old man who lived between two high mountains in a valley. But to go to undertake commerce of any kind, he had to circumnavigate these mountains. Now he was very old, he was almost 90 years old, but he decided that to enable he and his future generations to be able to have access to the world outside, that those mountains would have to be removed. So he decided that he was going to undertake to remove these mountains. So he gathered his family together and he presented them with the idea. So his sons and his grandsons were all for this. But when they presented this to the wife, she said, "You're 90 years old and you're feeble. You'll never move those mountains. What a ridiculous and stupid undertaking." But the old man was adamant. So the very next day, he and his sons and his grandsons took their shovel and they set off to dig the mountains. Well, on the way they passed through their little village, and a 7-year-old boy decided that he would join them. So they went and they dug. And day after day they dug. But the head man of the village considered this old man a fool, and he called him to him and he said, "Look," he said, "you're old and feeble. What a ridiculous undertaking." And the old man, totally unperturbed by this, said to him, "Well, you've got a head made of stone, because if I commence this undertaking, my sons and their sons and their sons and their children after them will continue this quest." So the head man didn't have any argument with this. What could he say? Well, they continued their digging, but as it happened, the gods of the mountains realized what was happening and knew that even though it would take an untold amount of time, that their fate was kind of sealed. So they made a deputation to go to the gods in the higher realms to make a petition. Well, at first the gods in the heavens, they laughed at the old man's endeavor, but they absolutely saw the logic of what it was, so they decided to help the old man. So they sent down certain forces, and overnight one of the mountains was moved to the east, and the other mountain was moved to the west. And to the great surprise of the old man and his family, when he woke up the next morning, the mountains had been removed. The second story is about a Chinese musician by the name of Wen. Now, Wen played the lute. He was quite an accomplished musician. But he heard that there was a certain musician called Xiang, who, when he played, could make the birds in the trees, the fish in the oceans and the streams and the animals dance. Now Wen decided that he wanted to be able to do this. So he left his home and he went to the place where Xiang the musician lived and asked him would he be his teacher. Now Wen stayed with this teacher Xiang for 3 years. But when he put his fingers to the strings of the lute, his fingers were like thumbs, and he couldn't make music. Well, both he and Xiang, his teacher, said, "This is a hopeless endeavor. You might as well abandon it and go back to your home." Wen said, "Yes, I know what it is. Even though I know how to string my instrument, I know the rudiments of playing, but I'm not playing with my heart." And so he went home. He said to his teacher, just give me some time. And so Wen went back to his house. And it wasn't very long before he went back to his teacher and he said, "I think I've had a breakthrough." "Oh," said his teacher, "well, how was that?" And Wen took out his instrument and he plucked a string. And though it was winter, all of a sudden blossom came out in the trees. The birds began to sing. And then he plucked the string that could be said to be autumn, and it began to blow a wind, the chill that comes with those winds of autumn. And then he played a chord, and an azure sky came to appear overhead. The birds sang loudly, the trees whispered. And his master teacher Xiang said, "Oh, you have surpassed even the greatest of musicians. You can now become a great teacher in your own right." And Wen said, "Yes, when the duality between the music and myself was reconciled, I realized the power of the music. With the alchemy of these two stories and the recognition of the relationship between the process, the physical process of alchemy, the preparation of the physical, its attunement with the seasons, its alignment with the stars. What is the overriding element that brings them all together? Just like in the second story, to bring about a synthesis that has its results that are clearly evident. The power of life. Not only with his music could Wen change the mood, he could change reality. What is this overriding principle that works in alchemy and works to bring the three levels of existence together for us, enabling us not only to change the mood, the ambience, but the reality of existence? What is it about you now? What brings together those three things to ensure the success of an alchemical phase? Preparation of the physical, alignment with nature, and the cosmic Thank you.